A little closer.
You gotta get it right up to your mouth.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here we go. I'll tell you a little story. And you know when you have a story, what you have to dedicate, a dedication. And my dedication is to Liz Holzemer, who is a meningioma trailblazer. She's the mother of meningioma mamas and papas. She is also the ultimate queen of tumor humor. Oh, and I do swear a little bit. Oh, and I might also, sometimes my brain likes to play tricks, and so it shorts out sometimes. So if I freeze, it's okay. You can laugh. Arya will come up and pose me in many different poses, and also sometimes I just randomly laugh and laugh. They don't last very long, 10-second freeze, 15-second laugh. But please, laugh along, okay? So, once upon a time, there was a Joan. I'm that Joan. I have brain cancer. The beginning of the story must be this. In 9 days, I will have 6 years of remission. But here's the deal, people. Cancer sucks. I am not lucky that it wasn't worse. Winning the lottery, that's lucky. Cancer changes lives. It just moves uninvited into your home. This little guy up here, rent-free. So there are bills and schedules and doctors and records and okay. This is my brain. This is my brain on CD. It's really kind of a boring watch, so forget the popcorn. And so, why is there no cure for all forms of cancer? Yeah. Whoops. That's, no cure for cancer. Cancer is a money maker. Who makes the money?
Corporations, pharmaceuticals.
It's also become commercialized. Businesses have, they use cancer to promote their products. A pink ribbon on a milk jug. There's like jewelry and bracelets and shirts and so much stuff. So, and then the names get lost in the commercialization. It's just a cancer, there's no names attached. And every doctor that I've seen in the last 6 years have asked me the same 2 questions. Can you guess? Anybody want to guess one?
Do you smoke?
Number 1, do you smoke? Do you have a history of cancer in your family? No one asked me, do you live in a world with acid rain, with a hole in the ozone layer, where food is mass-produced and picked early with no nutrients? Have you raised 3 daughters, pretty much single-handedly? So here's my story. I'm sticking to it. 2 years, pre-diagnosis, I started noticing this odd, identifiable smell. It came no matter where I was or what I was doing. And no, the smell was not me. I was working 4 jobs at the time, so I kind of blew it off. Besides, who am I going to discuss this with? My doctor? I have this smell. After diagnosis, I was told that they're called olfactory seizures. 2 weeks before diagnosis, in the morning, I have pictures, and if you can't see them, you can see them later. I had done the ALS swab, right? And It was the day of my sister's bridal shower also. So as I left the west parking lot to drive 2 blocks to my sister's house, I noticed something odd. I'm driving, and I noticed something odd. Like I got tunnel vision. I could see nothing. Thank God it was only 2 blocks to my sister's house. So by the time I got to the house, my head hurt so bad. As I was writhing on the floor in pain, everybody was playing the guessing game. You know, what it could be. Oh, was it what do you call those things? A bad migraine? I've never had a migraine. And Molly, who is my sister's maid of honor, and a nurse, she jokingly looked down at me and said, brain tumor. So I decided it was time to see my doctor. On April 28th, 2009, I got up, drove to my first job, which was tending to 18 Newfoundlands. And then I drove to Pet Expo, and then I drove to check in on the mom of one of my friends who I was helping caretake. And then I drove to East, where I was subbing in the ISS classroom. Oh, and that woman that I was helping take care of, she loved it when I came because she said I cooked the best oatmeal. Not the packaged kind, cooking oatmeal. You know, you get out the oatmeal, you get and boil a pan of water, you measure the oatmeal, pour it in, stir occasionally, remove from heat when it's the right consistency, and you pour it in a bowl, and she'd like to add a little cream and brown sugar. More than 4 steps, cooking. So I was cooking it. Yes. My appointment was at 4 o'clock, so I drove to the doctor and we discussed all of the weird things, migraine, smell, balance, difficulty reading, not driving, flashing lights. So now we're on day 10 since the first migraine. 2 years since the smell started. My doctor wanted me to go to the hospital and have a CT CAT scan. So I drove over to the hospital, and the techs do what they do, and then they got very serious. They called the radiologist and put me in a wheelchair. Seriously? I was driving all day, and now they won't let me walk. They put me on a bed, and the radiologist appeared. He proceeded to tell me and show me a picture of my tumor, and he said it was about the size of an egg. There's my head, there's the tumor. I'm a naturalist, so I was trying to figure out what size egg. Snake egg, turtle egg, goose, hummingbird. And then they wanted me to go to St. Mary's in Rochester immediately. My parents happened to be in town, so I said, well, that's cool, I'll just give my mom and dad a call and they can give me a ride. The radiologist looked at me like I had a brain tumor or something. And he said, no, you will be going by ambulance. I was like, what the hell? My car is here, I have to work tomorrow. I wasn't scared, I was more annoyed, really. And if I had known I'd be in an ambulance, I would have made a sign. You know when you happen to come up behind an ambulance and you can see those through the back doors? And my sign would have read, it would have been on my feet, help me, the ambulance is a ruse, I'm being kidnapped. And then wouldn't it be fun to see the police pull him over? I have a sick sense of humor. So anyway, the doctors at St. Mary's did an MRI the following morning. I am the proud host of an ostrich-sized tumor, brain tumor. And this is the size of an ostrich egg. And so it's like, what? Okay, so it was here. And then when they showed me the picture, it was so big, it had pushed, the symmetrical line, it had pushed my left brain into like a quarter moon, kind of a sliver of a moon. I was still driving. So, Jesus. So I did get to go home for a week with steroids to reduce the swelling on my brain before surgery. Dexamethasone. I did not like those steroids. Have you ever cleaned a bathroom with a toothbrush? Those around me hated the dexamethasone more. Apparently I tried to hit Arya by lifting up the vacuum cleaner over my head. I was going to hit her with it. And my eldest daughter, just the sweetest thing, I threatened to punch her into the middle of the street. Surgery was set for May 7th, 20 days after my first migraine. So I was able to go to my sister's wedding. Remember the maid of honor, Nurse Molly? When she saw me, she hollered, "Called it!"
Oh my God.
Prior to surgery, one of my young granddaughters had a special request for the neurosurgeon. She wanted them to leave the math part of my brain because she needed help with math. I'll never know if they did or not. Math is not my strongest asset, but I did do this. I kept my staples. 48 to be exact. So we could use them for math, right? I don't know how X staple is going to find Y staple, but you know, we'll figure it out. Now, my particular brain tumor is called a meningioma. Many people told me if I was going to have a brain tumor, like this was a conscious choice, a meningioma was the one to have. Say McDonald's drive-through. I'll have a meningioma. Do you want it supersized? Yeah, why not? They got the order right. So now we are on to the meningioma master plan eviction. The plan was to take out as much of the tumor as was possible, well, not all, because the ostrich had plopped her egg on two very important arteries that feed my brain, and on top of my right optic nerve, and sort of meshed in with my pituitary gland, and I have no idea how that's going to affect my menopause. One of my neurosurgeons, my daughters, called him Dr. Hot. And I've always wondered if there wasn't a Dr. Hot, if they would have made Mayo go find one before surgery. Anyway, Dr. Hot told me, "Mrs. Kelly." All of the doctors called me Mrs. Kelly. Do I look like Mrs.? I really? No, just say no. Mrs. Kelly, you have a large right paraclinoid mesial sphenoid wing meningioma extending into the cell and cavernous cella bilaterally. How do you even spell sphenoid? Now he continued. Mrs. Kelly, you have two options here. There was just a car accident in front of the hospital. Both passengers, male and female, have died. So you could be the first brain transplant patient. The drawback the drawback is that insurance will not cover this. The man's brain is $100,000 and the woman's brain is $50,000. I was like, what the hell? Why is the man's brain more than the woman's brain? You know what he said? The woman's brain has been used. So option 2, which is the one that we actually went with, was he said, we will have you undergo right frontotemporal craniotomy, partial anterior temporal lobectomy, and aggressive subtotal resection of the right paraclinoid mesial sphenoid wing lesion. Lesion? Now they're calling this thing a lesion? It's like the Monty Python movie. It's nothing but a flesh wound. So now I'm thinking, no. How did they expect to get in there? Oh, they're going to slice open my head, saw my skull, peel back the bone flap, and remove some tumor. I pictured a cheese slicer. You know, like they were gonna go, oh, a bit here, oh, a little bit more here. Someone move that damn carotid artery before it nicked it. So, well, I was being prepared for a craniotomy. The last thing that I consciously heard was, patient's going down, doobie-doo, down, down. And then, dun dun dun. I don't know. In my head, I saw the neurosurgeons going into the utility closet and coming out with the meningioma master plan eviction toolbox. And so and then they were talking. They were like, let's use this saw here. Oh damn, there's no blade. Somebody go get a saw with a blade. Let's use a 9-inch knife. Yeah, this will work. And what do we need? We need a corkscrew to pop the dura, and we're in. Someone grab the stick. And they did. Surgery completed. Brain tumor resected. Bone flap secured in place with bone buttons. Bone buttons? Where do you even get bone buttons? eBay? And what if a bone button comes loose? I don't want loose bone buttons floating around in a pool of cerebral fluid in my head. And here is my centipede badass scar. And we're done. So I asked Dr. Hott how soon I could get back on a motorcycle. Not until your bone flap is healed. Stop using those words. Ha, miraculous healing of the bone flap. Then I met the pathologist who told me that pathology was positive for type 2 atypical meningioma with prominent rhabdoid features. There is residual tumor within the right cavernous sinus, cella, suprasellar cistern, and prepontine cistern. You know what I heard? Leftover egg somewhere up in here. Surgery was 8 hours long, and my family and I were discussing this at some point. We're like, when did each surgeon eat? Because you want them to be nourished, right? Was it like, hold this clip, it's my turn to eat? Another of my young granddaughters overheard this conversation, and she said, they better not have left any Cheetos in there. At this point, I have so many questions. How old was this thing? How long had it been incubating? As they sliced, did they read the symmetrical rings, you know, like on a tree? Drought year, insect year, calf. And then on mine, did they read asshole boyfriend here, great job here, sucky pay job here, great sex year here. And really, recovery from the actual act of Frankenstein was easy. I had fun in the hospital, free for 3 days, and then I went home. Frankly, I had things to do, and I just didn't have time to mess around with this whole sphenoid wig crap stuff anymore. But no, now I get to return for radiation. What exactly will radiation do to the leftover egg? Heat it up, stir and nuke again? Yep, 5 days a week for 6 weeks. But first, I met my oncologist, and he told me, Mrs. Kelly, first we need to do something called simulation therapy. Nice words for pressing hot plastic on your head, pushing and pulling it like Laffy Taffy.